In the heart of their small town, nestled between the bakery and the old clock shop, stood the Grand Palace Theater. It wasn't grand in size, but it held grand memories for many. And for Julian and Thomas, it was their second home. They were stagehands, the quiet heroes who made the magic happen behind scenes. Julian, with his quick hands and even quicker wit, had worked there since he was tall enough to push a prop cart. Thomas, a bit younger, was always learning from Julian, his eyes wide with wonder at the theater's secrets. They weren't just co-workers. They were the best of friends, sharing jokes and knowing glances even when surrounded by the hustle and bustle of a live show. Tonight, a fancy play was on, with swirling dresses and booming voices. But for Julian and Thomas, the real fun began when the first act ended. That's when they got to escape, just for a little while, into their own hidden world. The theater was old, filled with dusty corners and forgotten nooks, but none was as special as their secret spot. The play's first act was drawing to a close. A hush fell over the audience as the lead actress sang her final, soaring note. Then, like a dam breaking, the applause crashed over the stage. It wasn't just polite clapping. It was a wave of sound, full of whistles and shouts of bravo. Julian and Thomas, standing just off to the side, felt the vibrations of the cheers through the floor. They exchanged a quick glance, a silent signal. The stage manager's voice boomed, "Curtain!" With practiced ease, the heavy velvet curtain began its slow descent, blocking the brightly lit stage from the eager faces in the seats. The applause softened to a steady roar as the last bit of the stage disappeared. Backstage, the air instantly changed. The bright lights seemed less harsh, and the noise of the audience became a faraway hum. It was their cue. The world of the play had ended for a brief moment, and their own secret adventure was about to begin. The moment the curtain hit the floor, Julian gave Thomas a quick, almost invisible nod. It was their secret sign, practiced over countless performances. Around them, the backstage area exploded into a flurry of activity. Props were being moved, actors hurried to their dressing rooms, and other stagehands busied themselves preparing for the next act. No one paid much attention to the two quiet figures. Julian, with a sweep of his hand, gestured towards a dark opening. Thomas followed without a word, slipping past a stack of scenery flats and around a rolling costume rack. They moved with the grace of shadows, weaving through the chaos like fish through a busy stream. Their movements were quick, silent, and expertly timed. In a few seconds, they had gone from the brightly lit, bustling stage wings to a quieter, darker passage. The sounds of the theater began to fade behind them, replaced by a sense of calm and the promise of their own hidden world. Their chosen path led them deeper into the theater's forgotten corners, away from the hum of voices and the clatter of moving sets. They knew every creak in the floorboards, every loose brick in the wall, guiding them without needing a single light. Finally, they reached it, a small, almost hidden alcove tucked away behind a towering stack of unused scenery and, most importantly, shielded by several layers of heavy, dark velvet curtains. These weren't the main stage curtains, but old, dusty ones used for storage or blocking light. Julian pushed aside one of the thick folds, revealing a tiny space, just big enough for two to sit comfortably. The air inside was still and cool, a welcome change from the warm, busy wings. As Thomas slipped in after him, Julian let the curtain fall back into place, sealing them off from the outside world. Here, the noise of the theater became a distant whisper, like a far-off dream. It was truly dark, a comforting kind of dark, where their eyes slowly adjusted, making out vague shapes of forgotten props and furniture. This was their sanctuary, a pocket of peace in the heart of the bustling theater. The moment the heavy curtains fell shut, a different world opened up, not just in sight and sound, but in smell too. The air in their secret alcove was thick with the scent of old things. It was the smell of forgotten plays, of costumes worn by actors long ago, and of props that had seen countless stories unfold. A deep, earthy smell of old wood filled their noses, like the timber beams that held the theater up. Mixed with that was the dry, powdery scent of dust, the kind that settles in quiet corners and stays for years undisturbed. It wasn't a bad smell, not at all. For Julian and Thomas, it was the smell of comfort, of history, and of their own special hideaway. It was the smell of secrets. This unique mix of scents told them they were truly off the grid, far from the bright lights and perfume of the audience. It was a smell that only the hidden parts of the Grand Palace Theater could offer, a scent that promised peace and privacy in their stolen moments. Even in the darkness of their private space, the world outside wasn't completely shut off. From tiny gaps where the heavy velvet curtains didn't quite meet, or perhaps a threadbare spot, thin slivers of light pierced the gloom. These weren't harsh, direct beams, but soft, dusty rays the color of old gold. They were stage lights, bleeding through from the main stage, where the crew was likely setting up for the next act. These faint lights painted shifting patterns on the wooden floor and the dusty props around them. A rectangle here, a wavy line there, like silent, golden snakes crawling across the floor. Sometimes, a larger blob of light would appear, then fade, as someone moved past the crack on the other side. It was a strange, beautiful dance of light and shadow, a constant reminder of how close they were to the busy stage, yet how utterly hidden they remained. The soft glow made their secret spot feel even more magical, a tiny island of quiet bathed in stolen light. With the comforting darkness and the old theater smell around them, Julian and Thomas settled into their quiet corner. The faint light from the stage made their faces glow softly as they turned to each other. Here, in their hidden spot, the whispers began. They spoke in hushed voices, so low that only the two of them could hear. They talked about funny things that happened backstage, like when the lead actor almost tripped over a prop, or how the new stagehand mixed up two important lines. Sometimes they would share deeper thoughts, dreams about what they'd do if they weren't working at the theater, or silly ideas that made them giggle. Their laughter was soft, almost soundless, like rustling leaves, careful not to give away their position. These were their secrets, shared only in this special place, away from the watchful eyes and busy ears of the rest of the world. It was a time for just them, a quiet moment of friendship in the heart of a buzzing theater. The strangest part of their secret hideaway wasn't just the darkness or the old smells. It was the incredible closeness to everything. They could hear the faint murmur of the audience in the rows just beyond the main stage curtain, a soft wave of chatter and rustling. They imagined the actors in their dressing rooms, just a few steps away, getting ready for their next big scene. Every now and then, a louder sound would cut through, a stagehand dropping a prop, or a stage manager's sharp command. It was a funny feeling, knowing that an entire world of people, hundreds of them, were so near, yet completely unaware of Julian and Thomas tucked away in their dark corner. They were like ghosts, observing without being seen. This feeling of being hidden in plain sight, right in the heart of the action, was a big part of the thrill. It was their own private show, playing out while the public waited for the official one to begin. The feeling of being hidden in plain sight, so close to the audience and actors, was more than just interesting. It was an electric thrill. It felt like the best game of hide-and-seek ever, but with the whole theater as their playground. Each time they slipped away, it was a small victory, a clever move in a silent game. The risk of being found, though tiny, made their secret moments even sweeter. They imagined the stage manager, bustling about, wondering where Julian and Thomas had vanished to, even though they were just meters away, safe in their velvet cocoon. It was their little rebellion, a tiny break from the rules, and that made it exciting. Every soft laugh, every whispered word, was a secret treasure, hidden from the loud, busy world outside their curtains. This feeling of being truly unseen, yet right in the heart of everything, filled them with a joyful energy, like two mischievous friends sharing the best secret in the world. The playful ease of their secret moment was suddenly broken. Thomas shifted, trying to get more comfortable on the hard floor, and his elbow bumped against an old metal bucket Julian had forgotten was there. The bucket wobbled, letting out a faint, metallic clink. It wasn't loud, but in the deep quiet of their alcove, it sounded like a thunderclap. Both boys froze, their breath held tight in their chests. Julian's eyes darted to the thin slivers of light, as if expecting a spotlight to suddenly pierce their hiding spot. Thomas's face, pale in the dim glow, showed a flicker of fear. Had anyone heard? Was the stage manager, with his sharp ears, already on his way to investigate? They listened intently, every muscle tense, for any sound of approaching footsteps or a questioning voice. The gentle hum of the theater outside seemed to grow louder, turning into a watchful silence. For a long moment, the air was thick with unspoken worry, the fun of their escape replaced by a sudden, cold fear of being caught. After a few tense heartbeats, no footsteps came, no shouts of discovery. Julian and Thomas slowly let out the breath they'd been holding. The silence outside their alcove remained unbroken by human intervention, just the soft, steady hum of the theater. They started to relax, their ears now picking up the sounds of the world they'd left behind, but in a muffled, faraway way. They could hear the soft, indistinct murmur of the audience, a gentle roar like the ocean from a distance. A cough, a rustle of programs, the scrape of a chair, all softened by the heavy curtains and walls. Then the orchestra began to tune up. First, a single violin, then the low thrum of a cello, followed by the bright blare of a trumpet. Each instrument joined in, creating a warm, messy symphony as they prepared for the second act. It was a comforting noise, a sign that the show was indeed going on, and that their little clink had gone unnoticed. The world was busy preparing for its next grand moment, leaving Julian and Thomas to their quiet, hidden peace. With the immediate fear gone, a sense of quiet comfort returned to their hidden nook. Julian reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, crinkled bag. With a sly grin, he offered it to Thomas. "Thought you might be hungry," he whispered, holding out a few tiny, hard candies. Thomas's eyes lit up, and he carefully took one, unwrapping it as quietly as possible. The faint scent of peppermint filled the air, mixing oddly with the dust and old wood. As they slowly sucked on their sweets, Julian leaned closer. "You know," he murmured, his voice barely a breath, "I heard the lead actress complaining about her costume earlier. Said it was too tight, she could barely breathe." Thomas stifled a giggle, his shoulders shaking silently. "Maybe she should try being a stagehand. Then she'd know what tight really feels like," he whispered back, mimicking the actress's dramatic voice. Julian let out a soft snore of laughter. It was a small moment, a quiet sharing, but it was perfect. These little jokes, these shared treats, made their stolen time even more precious. Inside their velvet-walled sanctuary, something strange happened to time. Outside, in the bustling theater, minutes raced by, filled with hurried movements and shouted instructions. But here, in their dark, quiet space, time seemed to stretch and slow. The faint orchestral tuning, the distant murmurs of the audience, all blended into a soft background hum, making it feel as if the world beyond had paused just for them. Each breath felt longer. Each whispered word hung in the air a little more. They weren't checking clocks or worrying about how much time was left. There was no need. In this secret world, a few minutes felt like a peaceful eternity. It was as if the dust motes dancing in the slivers of light were moving at their own lazy pace, unconcerned with the hurried world outside. This slowing of time was another part of the magic, allowing them to truly sink into their stolen moments, to savor every quiet shared laugh and every comforting silence. Just as the last note of the orchestra's tuning faded, a voice, sharp and clear, cut through the quiet. "Places, everyone. 5 minutes to curtain." It was the stage manager, his voice echoing a little even through the heavy curtains. The spell of their slow time was instantly broken. The outside world, which had felt so distant, rushed back in. Julian and Thomas exchanged a look. Their peaceful, secret moment was over. The game of hide-and-seek was nearing its end. They could almost feel the energy building on the other side of the velvet, the actors taking their positions, the crew getting ready for the final push. The muffled sounds of the audience seemed to sharpen, no longer a distant hum, but a lively buzz of anticipation. It was a familiar call, one they heard several times a night, but in their hidden space, it always felt like a gentle alarm, signaling the end of their brief escape. Time, which had slowed to a crawl, suddenly snapped back to its normal hurried pace. Without a word, Julian pushed aside the heavy velvet curtains, just enough for them to slip out. Their eyes quickly adjusted to the slightly brighter, but still dim, light of the backstage area. They moved with practiced speed and silence, like trained ninjas. No fumbling, no clumsy steps. They knew the maze of ropes, props, and backdrops like the back of their hands. They navigated the narrow passages, passing other stagehands who were busy with their own tasks, but never quite drawing attention to themselves. It was all about timing and blending in. They reached their designated spots just as the stage manager called out, "Curtain up in 30. Julian grabbed a rope, ready to pull a flat, while Thomas positioned himself to help with a quick set change. They were back, part of the busy machinery of the theater, as if they had never left. No one would ever know they had just returned from their own secret world. Julian took his place by the heavy rope, his hands ready. Thomas stood a few feet away, near the edge of the stage, ready to push the next piece of scenery into place. The stage manager was shouting last-minute directions. The orchestra was playing its final notes before the curtain, and the hum of the audience was growing louder. Yet, in the middle of all this noise and motion, Julian caught Thomas's eye. It was just a quick look, a flash across the busy stage. But in that look, everything was said. It was a shared smile, a silent high five for a mission successfully completed. It spoke of their secret hideaway, the dust, the quiet jokes, and the thrill of almost being caught. It was a look that said, "We did it. We had our moment." There was a deep happiness in that shared glance, a joy that came from their unique bond and the special, hidden world they had created, even if it was just for a few precious minutes. A voice, clear and strong, announced, "And now, Act 2. With a soft whirring sound, the heavy main curtain began to rise, slowly revealing the brightly lit stage once more. The audience's excited murmurs swelled into a fresh wave of applause, welcoming the actors back. Julian and Thomas were already busy, their hands moving with practiced ease. Julian tugged on a rope, helping to lift a piece of scenery into place, while Thomas smoothly rolled a small table offstage, out of sight. They were just two cogs in the big machine of the theater, working quietly in the shadows. No one in the audience, enjoying the show, would ever guess the little adventure they had just had. Their secret was safe, tucked away in the dusty corners of the theater, a special memory just for them. They were back to their jobs, making sure the magic on stage happened smoothly, but with a shared, private smile that no one else could see. The stage lights blazed, the actors spoke their lines, and the play continued. But for Julian and Thomas, the real performance had already happened, tucked away in the shadows. Their shared secret, the quick escape, the hushed jokes, the lingering smell of dust and old wood. These moments were like tiny, perfect treasures. They were more than just stagehands. They were guardians of a hidden world, a world only they knew. This secret hideaway wasn't just a place. It was a symbol of their friendship, a bond woven from shared silence and quiet laughter. It made the long nights of work fly by, knowing that between acts, they had their own special magic to look forward to. And as the play reached its final act, and the curtain prepared to fall once more, Julian and Thomas knew. They knew that soon, the lights would dim, the audience would applaud, and they would once again slip into the comforting, secret shadows, ready for their next adventure.